Thank you very much. Kindly give me more sound so that we can hear each other. In a way that we can hear each other. Thank you. This way we'll be able to communicate. Thank you. We would want to go to the first part of the program. I'm waiting for guidance from Helen Mtawali. Doesn't just sing songs like that. She has a gift of composing on the microphone and singing what she's composing as she continues to compose and continue singing at the same time. I don't know whether I'm communicating. I don't know how to describe that thing that I'm describing. From Desta University here in Kenya. Thank you, Helen. And I believe you'll get a moment to do that what you do best. Karibu sana. Continue.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, we want to start the morning session, and our principal secretary in charge of early learning and basic education, Minister of Education, will be the chair or the chair of this particular session. I wish to request the following speakers to come in front and join our principal secretary, Dr. Belio Kipsang. Rudy Edgar from World Health Organization. Dr. Rudy Edgar, if you're here, please come in front. Then Mr. Carlos Felipe Jaramillo, or the representative county director, World Bank. Ms. Manita Zamani, representative UNICEF. Dr. Lynette Okengo, executive director, AfECN. And we also wish to ask the representative of the country director, UNESCO, to come in front. And the moderator for the session will be Professor Kofi Marfo, the chair of AfECN. We also request that he comes in front. Thank you very much. My name is Martha Odundo from the Ministry of Education. I wish to invite our Principal Secretary, Dr. Belio Kipsang. Oh, I'm being reminded that the French-speaking persons should collect their earphones at the back. There's somebody who is standing and raising up his hands will assist. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, I would want to welcome all of you to Kenya. I know we had some other sessions yesterday, and good morning. Good morning again.
Good morning.
So before I say much, we would want to commit this particular conference to the Almighty, and I will request Dr. Jojo Wino to say a word of prayer. Dr. Wino.
I request that we all rise, that we can pray. Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, creator of heaven and earth, and all things visible and invisible, the King of kings and Lord of lords, we want to thank you in a special way this morning for the good things that you have done unto us. We want to thank you for gathering us together from all countries of the world, Lord, that we can gather at this place to celebrate the first Africa Early Childhood International Network Conference, Lord, being held in Nairobi. We want to thank you for all the partners and planners and organizers of this event. And Lord, we want to thank you also for all our delegates who have come. We want to thank you for the presenters, for the chairs of all the sessions. We want to thank you for our Cabinet Secretary and the Ministry of Education officials who are here present, Lord. We We want to commit all the delegates into your hands, all the sessions, both parallel and the plenary session, that as we begin, Lord, may you give us wisdom that we may have useful deliberations and come up with practical options and policy interventions, Lord, that can improve the well-being of our children and make the world a better place. And now as we begin this session, may you be with us until the end of it. In Jesus' name we pray. Yeah. Thank you. Be seated.
So thank you very much. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, our delegates, welcome to Nairobi. Those of us who have come from other countries and other parts of the world, we would want to welcome you to the city of Nairobi. The city of Nairobi you will for sure enjoy. So our Cabinet Secretary for Education Kenya, Dr. Amina Mohamed, who is here with us today, so that we can all listen to our eminent speakers on the global and regional perspectives on what we are in today, our child. So at this point, I would want to appreciate all of you for finding time to be with us, for finding time to share our experience, to find time to do that is very important, this early investment in our children. It is so critical that we invest in the future, and it is said that an investment in the future is investing in the young people. And any country that does not invest in the future by investing in the young people, then for sure such a country will be in for that which they would not like. As a country, as Kenya, we have invested heavily and working very closely with all of us and all partners to ensure that we prepare our children early enough for life that will come. One is that we make sure that we take care of them in all issues of health, issues of immunization, issues of nutrition. We also make sure that they are registered early so that we can be able to appreciate the children that are in this country. So we have a registration system that makes sure that we register our children at birth. The most other important thing thereafter is for us in the education sector to be able to pick them and prepare them for life, prepare them for lifelong learning. And today, as we work with the African network, we are creating networks which will be able to take forward that which is so critical, as I've said, investing in the young people and therefore investing in the future. Our moderator today in this very critical session will be Professor Kofi Marfo, the chair of the African Education Early Childhood Network, and who will be able to introduce our eminent speakers who will take us through this particular session. I would want us to know who is Professor Kofi Marfo. Professor Kofi Marfo is an holder of PhD, is a professor and founding director of the Institute of Human Development at AfECN University, where he is a co-leader of an initiative to support children development, research, capacity building in Africa, and is a co-convener of the African Scholars in Child and Early Childhood Development workshops and series. He is a member of the Governing Council of the Society for Research in Child Development and serves in advisory roles for 2 private foundations with substantial investment in early childhood development. Previously, Professor Marfo taught education psychology for more than 2 decades at the University of South Florida, holding leadership positions such as director of the doctoral program in special education and director of interdisciplinary postdoctoral fellowship programs in school restructuring. He has worked as a researcher and a lecturer in a number of universities across the globe, including University of Cape Coast, Ghana, the University of Alberta, Memorial University of Newfoundland, Canada, and Kent State University. Professor Marfo has published extensively in child interaction, in areas of childhood intervention, childhood disability, parental-child interaction, and early childhood development, and has been cited across this discipline in over 180 different journals worldwide. Professor Marfo holds a PhD in education from the University of Alberta. Professor Marfo, welcome, so that you can also introduce our eminent panelists this morning. Karibu sana, Prof.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Mohammed, honorable members of her office, all protocols observed. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good. Okay, now I can be seen. I used to ask for something to stand on. Let me begin my remarks with a proverb that has been attributed to the Chinese, and I think it's very appropriate for our work as we look at when it is that we have to take that responsibility. And that proverb is, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Our job is to take care of our children now. We may not have done it in the past, but we have the opportunity to do it. And I call on all of us who represent children, families, and communities to take that charge very seriously. Before I introduce our speakers, I do want to introduce other members of the board to you. It's going to be very brief, so my colleagues, when you hear your name, would you please maybe stand up and raise your hand a little bit so we can appreciate you. The first is Professor Linda Richter, and I know she's somewhere here. The second is Esther Harrigot. Thank you very much. The third is Maggie Kamau. Is Maggie here? Okay. I owe them a lot of appreciation for the work they've done on behalf of all of us over the past few years. I wouldn't spend too much time, but just a few maybe 2 lines of a remark. Our world is changing drastically. Our world has a lot of promise, but our world also has a lot of problems. We cannot rest on our oars, and as I said earlier, we have a joint responsibility to invest in our children. We have a joint responsibility to work collaboratively with other agencies, with governmental agencies, national or local, and with networks such as ours to ensure that our work goes very far. Now, with those just few remarks, I want to introduce to you our panel for this morning. I'm going to start with Dr. Rudy Eggers, WHO. Mr. Carlos Felipe Jaramillo, I'm sorry, actually he's not here. It's Dr. Amanda Devacelli for the World Bank. Okay, and I know she's here. Okay, good. Ms. Maniza Zaman, over there. Okay. Dr. Seydou Jallo from UNESCO, and Dr. Lynette Okengo, who is the Executive Director of AfECN. With that, I'm going to invite the first speaker to make remarks. These are general remarks that they have about our field and anything else that they have to share with us. So Dr. Rudy, I guess.
The Cabinet Secretary for Education, Honorable Amina Mohammed, Professor Kofi, Marfo, AfECN Board Chair, Amanda Debicelli from the World Bank, Dr. Maniza Zaman, the UNICEF representative for the regional office, Dr. Okengo, the Executive Director of AfECN, distinguished ladies and gentlemen from the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health, partners from the UN and other bilateral agencies, distinguished colleagues from academia and civil society, delegates from across Africa and across the world, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are here at a momentous time, a great moment in history, a great change in history. World leaders have endorsed the Sustainable Development Goals, and with that agenda, we have recognized that the health and well-being of young children is essential for achieving a sustainable future. SDG target number 4.2.1 refers specifically to early childhood development of young children and calls upon governments and partners to increase the percentage of children under 5 years of age who are developmentally on track in health, learning, and psychosocial well-being to 80%. Early childhood development is the foundation of lifelong health, productivity, and social cohesion. Failing children in the early years has severe consequences on their education, their job opportunity, their potential to become responsive citizens who contribute to peaceful and sustainable societies. The evidence is clear that on what is needed to enable children to develop their full potential. Obviously, good health, adequate nutrition, a safe and secure environment, love and affection is what makes children survive and thrive. While substantive progress has been made in improving child survival in many countries of the region, too many children still experience conditions that put them at risk of not attaining their full developmental potential. For example, 1 out of 3 children are stunted due to malnutrition. Many children experience punitive, harsh punishment in the household. And a recent publication has shown that there's actually an increase in the number of children living with disabilities. In order to provide good childcare, caregivers themselves need to be in a good physical and mental health. Therefore, we should be aware that in many families and communities, we are still facing the challenge of HIV. We should be aware that around 15 to 20% of women experience mental health problems in the perinatal and postpartum period. And an increasing number of people, including children, are suffering war, conflict, and displacement. Clearly, it's a good time for all to embrace the early childhood development, as the cost of inaction will be too high. If we fail, affected individuals are estimated to suffer a loss of about a quarter of their average adult income, and countries may see greatly increased expenditures on health and education. In the drive to develop human potential, clearly the health sector must be a firm partner. Health services have a great reach to caregivers and children during the critical period from pregnancy to the early years of child life. Many health interventions that promote survival also have an impact on the children's development, and the continuum of care from preconception through adolescence is essential for ensuring health and development for all. Primary health care contacts can be optimized to not only provide clinical interventions, but also support caregiver-child interaction, play, and communication. quality antenatal care, good newborn care, and effective well and sick child visits are all essential for early childhood development. Current investments towards universal health coverage provide a unique opportunity for the health systems to deliver the right interventions for young children and their caregivers at the right time, and to foster the multi-sectoral collaborations that are essential for sustainable growth. This conference, therefore, comes at an opportune time, as it provides an opportunity to champion the cause of early childhood development, to learn from each other, and to find ways in addressing not only the what, but also the how. Ladies and gentlemen, teams from 7 countries have actually been meeting here at this hotel in the last 3 days to share the experience and take forward the implementation of the Nurturing Care Framework. They were inspired and shared many best practices. The country delegations discussed and emphasized on the clinical importance of the following key actions. Firstly, to building on ongoing programs and services using existing entry points across the life course and funding opportunities. Secondly, the fostering of intra and inter collaboration and coordination to optimize critical inputs from the relevant sectors in promoting nurturing care. Enhancing high-level advocacy for political commitment and ownership to institutionalize ECD as an essential investment for the overall national growth and development. In conclusion, it is my wish that this conversation will continue in this forum and beyond this forum to foster coordination, planning, implementation, monitoring, evaluation of the ECD agenda, as no single agency, or indeed no single sector, can realize the aspiration of the SDG target 421, calling for the increase in the percentage of children who are developmentally on track in health, learning and well-being. On behalf of WHO and the partners operating in the health sector, I wish you a successful meeting. Thank you very much.
I now have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Seydou Diallo, representative of UNESCO.
Ambassador Amina Mohammed, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education, Professor Kofi Mabo, Chairman, African Early Childhood Network, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Minister of Health, and other senior members of the Ministries of Education and Health, members of academia, other UN agencies represented here, early childhood practitioners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The Director of the UNESCO Regional Office for Eastern Africa sends her regrets for being unable to be with you, Cabinet Secretary, because she's on a planned representation mission to Tanzania, but had asked me to extend her warm regards and success for this meeting. Having said this, I must say that I'm honored to deputize her, and I'm very and personally delighted to be present here to make a remark on this very important occasion. We will recall that almost 4 decades ago, in 1990, the global education community comprising governments, 150 of them, development partners and non-governmental organizations gathered in Thailand, Jomtien, and adopted the World Declaration on Education for All. 10 years later, at the World Education Forum in Dakar, more countries attended, and the rest of the education community adopted 6 Education for All goals, committing to put up the legal frameworks, policies, and financial resources required to achieve the goals by 2015. Relevant to this conference was EFA Goal 1, committing to expand and improve comprehensive early childhood care and education, especially for the most vulnerable and disadvantaged children, an emphasis on early learning. About the same time, the Global Development agenda, the Millennium Development Goals, came into effect, with Goal 2 committing to achieving by 2015 universal primary education and ensuring that all children are able to complete primary education. At the EFA and MDG target dates in 2015, it was realized that the goals will not be achieved, even though there had been significant progress in particular areas. In 2012, for instance, nearly 180 million children were enrolled in pre-primary education worldwide, an increase of nearly 2/3 since 1999. By 2014, however, only 40 countries had instituted compulsory pre-primary education, but this has led to steady improvements in the enrollment of pre-primary age children. Notwithstanding these apparent positive movements towards achieving EFA and the global and successive global goals on early childhood, the quality of child care for very young children remains a serious issue. At the World Education Forum 2015 in Incheon, South Korea, the global education community agreed to incorporate the unfinished business of EFA and the MDGs into the next global development agenda, which we call the Sustainable Development Goals. It has been evident over a period of time that despite government's commitments to global agreed education development goals or aspirations, they do not necessarily provide the enabling conditions for the achievement of the goals. However, in order to improve the chances of children to excel, not only to succeed, but to excel in life and transform the continent to the Africa we want, sub-Saharan African governments and international community must provide the necessary investments for this to happen. Below are just some critical areas for investment. Number one, strategic investment in comprehensive early childhood development. In the case of early childhood development, the situation as it is can best be described as a missed opportunity, considering all the years that we've been talking about this. There is ample evidence from research studies, including by neuroscientists from reputable learning institutions, that early stimulation is important for development of the brain, coupled with good nutrition and a healthy and conducive environment for the holistic development of the child. Early childhood development is important in building the foundation for success in school and in later life. Governments therefore need to put in the necessary investments of the resources to establish the legal frameworks, comprehensive structures, using a multi-sector approach, and processes at national level to support the development of the necessary elements for quality early childhood development and care. The next area will be train the professionals to provide quality care. The evaluation of the achievements of EFA and MDG's agenda in 2015, especially the early childhood related goal, indicated that the quality of care for very young children, 3 to 5, remains a serious issue. The knowledge, skills, and status and motivation of the early childhood educators and other related professionals need to be addressed. Teachers, early childhood educators, health and nutrition professionals need to be trained to improve the quality of care to enable children to acquire the wholesome experience and strong foundations and readiness for school and success in life. Now, another area is where we allocate teachers in schools. Given the preoccupation of school performance at public examinations and the acute teacher shortage in Africa, schools generally tend to allocate the very best teachers, very best qualified teachers to the later years of the school at the expense of lower grades. We are saying you have to send the best teachers down to build the foundation, the strong foundations for even success in the later stages of the school cycle. Improving teacher, early childhood workers' status and working conditions. Given the recognition of the critical role of teachers in achieving SDG 4, other dimensions of the teaching profession, including teacher status and working conditions and social dialogue, need to be addressed urgently. These issues adversely affect the availability and performance of the teachers themselves. It is equally important for governments to provide, necessary investments to increase the attractiveness of the teaching profession and ensure the best students come into and stay in the profession. These are just 3 areas, certainly not exhaustive. There are many other areas that need to be addressed. But let me just move on to the conclusion. If governments want to build clever and competitive nations and continents, they must invest resources strategically in early childhood education and effectively address all barriers to quality early childhood education. Children must be provided with a solid foundation, educational, health, nutritional, to develop into wholesome individuals that will succeed in school and in later life and transform our continent. Early childhood teachers, educators, and other related professionals continue to be critical in the provision of a sufficiently strong foundation for children to succeed in school and later life. The quality of care must, however, be improved by the training of such professionals, build their capacity continuously on a regular basis. And of course, similarly, a conducive and stimulating learning environment is a prerequisite for getting the children ready for school. UNESCO, in collaboration with the global early childhood community, will continue to advocate and mobilize for early childhood education at international, regional, and national levels to encourage governments to make the necessary strategic investments in early childhood as a prerequisite for building clever nations for sustainable development of the African continent. I thank you for your attention.
I have a lot of pleasure today, and I want to add to that. So now I have the pleasure of introducing from the World Bank, Dr. Amanda DeVicelli.
Thank you so much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, conference participants, and my esteemed colleagues on the panel. Please let me extend our sincere thanks to the government of Kenya, led by the Honorable Amina Mohammed here, Cabinet Secretary, and to AfECN, Dr. Kofi Marfo and Dr. Lynette Okengo. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today. I bring apologies from our country director, Felipe Jaramillo. My name is Amanda DeVicelli. I'm the global lead for early childhood development. Felipe had hoped to be here with you all today, but today is also the International Day for Eradication of Poverty, and he had long ago committed to a full day of events. And I suppose we can forgive him because we all also believe in the eradication of poverty, I think. And of course, investing in early childhood development is critical to the eradication of poverty, and that's why we're all here today. As some of you know, the World Bank recently launched the Human Capital Project. This is an unprecedented commitment on the behalf of the bank to work with government and partners to increase investments in human capital, recognizing that investments in human capital are essential for the future, and in fact, human capital, the people power, the capacity of people, is the most important thing any country has. I'm going to talk about the Human Capital Project later today in one of the sessions, so I'll just mention here briefly that it has 3 components. Its overall goal is to accelerate more and better investment in people globally. And the 3 components are, first, an index, which measures countries' investments in their people. Second, an agenda focused on measurement and research. And third, an increase in country engagement. And I believe this Human Capital Project is a powerful opportunity and a powerful tool for all of us to put early childhood at the forefront as the foundation of human capital. At the World Bank, we are committed to increasing our investments in early childhood development. We've more than tripled our investments in the last few years based on the strong evidence of impact, and most importantly, based on the demand from countries themselves. And this demand that we all work together to foster is so essential to driving resources for early childhood globally. I'm delighted to be here with all of you and with all of these valued partners. I think partnership is essential to our efforts, and there are so many partners, many of whom are in the room, who we need to work with to increase and improve investments in early childhood development. Our Early Learning Partnership is a multi-donor trust fund that commits resources to early childhood in Africa. Since 2012, we've committed more than $10 million to small grants in more than 20 countries, and those grants have created more than $1.3 billion in new investments in early childhood and better investments. and we're really proud of that. We're also really proud of our Early Years Fellowship Program, and all of our Africa Early Years Fellows are here, and that's an investment in building capacity, future generation of leaders for early childhood in Africa, and based on the success of that program, we're now expanding it globally, and it will become a global fellowship. And our partners are critical to all of these efforts. Our NGO partners, our foundation partners, our academic partners, and all of our international partners. The Global Partnership for Education, the SUN movement, the Power of Nutrition, ECDAN, the Global Financing Facility for Every Woman, Every Child, and of course, UNESCO, WHO, and UNICEF, who are represented here on this panel. And I hope I got everyone, and if I forgot someone, I apologize. But our most important partner, of course, is government. And that is one of the most wonderful opportunities that working at the World Bank is getting the chance to work directly with government to drive these investments and improve investments and build the next generation. When I look at the World Bank partner portfolio, I see so many examples across countries of how we can do more working in partnership together. At the global level, working on developing the nurturing care framework with WHO and UNICEF and so many other partners has been a really important development. In measurement, we're all working on trying to support countries to measure early childhood development more accurately, more efficiently, and in a way that is useful for countries, but allows us to compare across countries. In countless countries, we have examples of how we can do more when we work together in partnership. In Cote d'Ivoire, the World Bank and UNICEF teams are working beautifully together, led by the government and with the participation of a strong NGO sector on a new community-based program and teacher training program. In Senegal, we just approved a $75 million investment in investing in the early years. It's a multi-sectoral project led by the government, with components that include integrating early stimulation into community-based nutrition, partnering with parent-teacher associations at the community level, partnering with Quranic schools to integrate quality early learning into the program they're doing, increasing birth registration, and working across sectors to protect children's rights, improve the quality of services they receive, and give them a brighter future. And of course, here in Kenya, the government recently approved a national pre-primary policy and the guidelines that were launched yesterday. I congratulate you all on this wonderful achievement. The bank was so pleased to partner with you and others on this. And it's certainly a wonderful achievement and something that I think can and should be shared with other countries as an example of what can be achieved working together to improve the quality of programming that young children experience. So I will close now just by, again, thanking AfECN and the government of Kenya for bringing us all together. I think this must be the biggest conference on early childhood development in Africa, certainly in my lifetime. And it's really a pleasure to be here. Let me just say to my Kenyan colleagues, Twende Pamoja, let's go together, because it's only together that we're going to succeed and ensure that all children have a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Now I have the joy of inviting from UNICEF, Ms. Maniza Zaman.
Honorable Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Dr. Amina Mohammed, representatives of the Government of Kenya, Professor Kofi Marfo, Africa ECN Board Chair, distinguished panelists, guests, all protocols observed. Good morning and habari za asubuhi, which is what we say in Tanzania, which is where I work. So I'm really delighted to be here on behalf of the UNICEF East and Southern Africa Regional Director, Leila Pakala, who is out of the country. And let me begin by sincerely appreciating the Government of Kenya and the African Early Childhood Network for bringing us together here to discuss an issue that is of great importance, which is what we must do to ensure that every child in Africa gets the best possible start to life. At UNICEF, we believe that every young child should be given the opportunity to develop to their full potential, to become physically healthy, emotionally secure, mentally alert, and intellectually curious. For this to happen, every child must grow up in a nurturing, loving, and caring environment where they are kept healthy, well-nourished, safe, protected, stimulated, and surrounded by caregivers capable of responding to their needs. In sub-Saharan Africa, 2 out of 3 children under the age of 5 are at risk of not developing to their full potential due to poverty and malnutrition. This is a sobering fact. According to the Lancet, this lack of opportunity in the early years could translate into an annual average percentage loss of adult income of 26%. Think of that impact on individuals, on families, on communities, and on countries. For us at UNICEF, the reason to invest in young children isn't just because of what the evidence tells us. We know that the evidence from neuroscience, economics, and human development consistently makes the case for why we need to invest and focus more on the very young children and their families. As has been emphasized many times, the time between pregnancy to the age of 3 is a critical time for brain development and also for susceptibility to environmental influences. A child that grows up having benefited from a loving, caring, nurturing environment has more of a chance of doing well in school, of leading a healthy life, gaining decent employment, and as an adult also making better life choices. That child also has a better chance of providing a great environment for their own children to grow up in, thus creating a virtuous cycle of intergenerational growth and development. It is because of this that UNICEF has been proud to partner with the World Health Organization and to work in collaboration with the World Bank, the Partnership for Maternal and Newborn Child Health, and the Early Childhood Development Action Network to develop the Nurturing Care Framework that was endorsed at the World Health Assembly in May this year. But for us at UNICEF, there is another imperative for focusing on early childhood development. It is a moral necessity. If we are to tackle inequity and build fairer societies, we must focus attention on supporting those young children and families most in need. As an organization, we fully embrace the concept of progressive universalism, that we must give the greatest priority to those children most at risk of being excluded, so that unequal opportunities in one generation do not lead to unequal outcomes for the next. In addition to the evidence and moral arguments, we all have the commitments that we have made as a global community to the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And unless we deliver on the results for young children and families, our ability to achieve the SDGs on hunger, health, education, peace, and justice by 2030 will be significantly diminished. UNICEF at the global, regional, and country levels stands ready to work with all partners, and especially governments, to support caregivers in giving their young children the best start in life. Today, here, we're in full force with all of you, with representatives of close to 30 UNICEF country offices from across Africa participating in this conference, as well as colleagues from our headquarters and regional levels. We are here because we take this issue seriously. We are here because we believe in partnerships. We want to work with you to strengthen health, nutrition, education, and protection systems at national, subnational, and community levels to better support caregivers and young children. We want to explore with you how to take to scale and sustain interventions that we work on, such as parenting programs, providing quality early childhood education, integrating stimulation into large-scale community-based nutrition programs, and supporting maternal mental health. We also want to work with you to create a more enabling environment to support early childhood development. And this includes looking at the policy frameworks, tackling market-related issues such as regulation and shaping demand for services, and ensuring that the right measurement frameworks are in place so that we can track our progress and course correct as necessary. But there are two issues related to the enabling environment that we must pay particular attention to in our discussions this week. That is funding, and that is workforce development. It is not always that more money delivers better results. We need to know where to allocate the resources most equitably and efficiently, and we need to be able to be realistic, really, about the funding and financing opportunities for early childhood development. Consistently across Africa, we see that situation. The bulk of the resources needed to ensure better outcomes for young children will be coming from domestic resources. And it is incumbent upon all of us to support our government partners in determining where best to allocate and spend those resources. The interaction between the caregiver and the young child is one of the key determinants of child development. Positive interactions, as we all know, yield great results. And negative ones can indeed impair a human being for life. We rightly place much emphasis on the role of primary caregivers, like parents, and we must continue to do so. But let us also consider how best to support our health workers, our nutrition counselors, our pre-primary teachers, care center workers, social workers, and others that are to support, encourage, and enable this workforce to provide the first-class services to young children and their families, particularly. I would like to end by congratulating the African Early Childhood Network under the leadership of its board of directors and its executive director, Dr. Lynette Okengo, for providing us with this unique opportunity to come together for the children of this continent. The UNICEF East and Southern Africa Regional Office is proud to be a close partner of the network because we share a common vision that all children in Africa achieve their full potential. We also value the focus on galvanizing partnerships to achieve results for children and families. As participants in this conference, we do have a responsibility to maximize.
Because this person I'm going to introduce is a colleague and my boss. I have the pleasure of introducing to you the Executive Director of AfECN, Dr. Lynette Okengo.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Amina Mohamed, representatives of the government of Kenya, distinguished panelists, distinguished delegates that include county first ladies from 31 counties in Kenya, ladies and gentlemen, my task is to share what is AfECN, where have we come from. It was in the year 2007, when the Lancet, one of the world's oldest, most prestigious and best known general medical journals, announced an impending global disaster. According to scientific evidence that was presented, over 200 million children under 5 years of age, they said that was a conservative estimate, failed to reach their developmental potential due to poverty, malnutrition, poor health, and inadequate care. We've heard the figure has since gone up. When we heard this figure, we were shocked. This was shocking. Over 200 million children, many people in Kenya, many Kenyans, 200 million children. And these were concentrated in developing countries. These children, unfortunately, were unlikely right from start, right from birth, to develop well, socially, emotionally, and cognitively. What this really means, simply, is that they were unlikely to succeed in life, handicapped right from the start. Millions of children being born but growing to be less than they can be, dwarfed, living in a box. What a gloomy picture. What was interesting was that we were at that time celebrating improved child mortality rates. Huge investments had been made to ensure that fewer children were dying. The truth was that on the outside, children were not dying, but on the inside, they were dying. This caught the attention of governments, development agencies, civil society organizations, and other actors. Although it took time, it also caught the attention of young, energetic African leaders who are attending the World Forum Foundation on Early Care and Education in Puerto Rico in 2014. During the meetings, and particularly one meeting that was held on the floor of one of the conference rooms, the global leaders kept asking themselves, what is it we can do to make a difference? How can we be part of changing the story for our children in Africa? We kept thinking, it must be for a reason such as this that we were created. There is a purpose for our lives. This must be our life's purpose. It was very clear right from the start that we had to be part of the solution. We could no longer remain silent and wait for other people to provide the solution for our children in Africa. What contribution could we make? It was very clear also right from the start that for greater impact, we needed to reach out to others. We couldn't do this alone. Others who felt the burden, particularly frontline workers in our communities who come face to face with the challenges that children and their families face on a daily basis. We felt that if the voice of frontline workers was solidified and amplified, we could activate an army to champion the cause of our children in our own countries, as well as at the regional and at the global level. It was also very clear to us that although we were young, with a small sphere of influence, we had to do something with what we had. We were very sure we would need all the support we would get, and so we would need to work with other people, to seek partnerships, to strengthen existing collaborations. We then decided to start networking with early childhood actors within our own countries, and to continue connecting with others at the regional level. This is how the idea of establishing national networks and the regional network came about. The Africa Early Childhood Network was established in September 2015. In the past 3 years, it actually seems longer than that, in the past 3 years, we're very happy to announce that we now are working very closely with national networks in 14 countries, with plans to cover the entire region in the next 10 years. We are actively engaged in continental ECD advocacy and are very excited to report that the Africa Early Childhood Network is the coordinating agency for the Early Childhood Education and Development Cluster that was recently launched at the Africa Union Commission to support the achievement of the Continental Education Strategy CESA 1625. The launch of this cluster took place just last month in September. We have launched also 2 cohorts of research fellows from 16 different countries to support the generation of evidence, to support programming that is contextually relevant. We are working closely with other actors across the region to support national systems and programs for our youngest children, particularly children under 3 years of age, through the integration of responsive caregiving into health and nutrition programs. In partnership with the World Forum Foundation, and we are delighted that the co-founders are here, Bonnie and Roger, we are supporting the development of young African leaders to strengthen advocacy capacity. So why are we here today? We're here to celebrate, to exchange experiences, to network with one another, and to draw strength and encouragement for this great assignment. What are we celebrating? we are celebrating our governments. Our governments who have over the years increased their attention to young children, who have continued to lead and support ECD across the region. We know there's much work to be done, but we are delighted and are celebrating the fact that we are all on board. We're also celebrating our early beginnings. First and foremost, the dedication and commitment of our founder members and board members who have made personal sacrifices to ensure we succeed. If you meet Asta Harrigot anywhere, Maggie Kamau, Professor Linda Richter, and our board chair, Professor Kofi Marfo, please give them a warm handshake. Should you come across Juliana Seletti, Yukiko Amnon, Susanna Duarte, Aka Drutajwaha, and if by any chance you're online and you find that Patrick Makokoro is also online, please share your smile, hug them, tell them they're the best. This is the group that sat on the floor of that hotel room. If you come across Dr. Joan Lombardi, and I'm sure you will, she's very difficult to miss. Her passion, her commitment for children is very hard to miss. If by the time you leave you haven't met her, we need to find out how committed you are to children. Please let her know that she's blessed. By the way, we not only sat on floors, we also had breakfast and enjoyed meetings in nice places. And Joan has always been there to keep us focused and to make sure that our voice, the African voice, is heard in very special places. Secondly, we are celebrating the commitment of our partners who believed in us and supported what was just an idea, sometimes not even written down. The Children's Investment Fund Foundation, UNICEF, amazing individuals who spent their time, who committed personally to ensure that we were born, lived past our 1,000 days, and are now into early childhood. If you see any of them, give them a big hand. I will not forget to thank the government of Kenya. This is our very first meeting, and our Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, who graciously agreed to become the regional champion for this cause, has been a solid support. And the success of this conference is largely because of their goodwill, because of the way that they have supported us. We are delighted that you're here at this place, at this time. It is not a mistake. This is a special time in history. Special because just recently, the G20, and when the G20 does something, we pay attention, right? They control 85, together we're talking about 85% of the economy. The G20 endorsed the Early Childhood Development Action Network as part of its initiative for early childhood development. This is a special time also because globally we are seeing partnerships that are growing, and I'd like to mention specifically the Early Childhood Action Network. And then regionally we are seeing several partnerships growing. We have an Early Childhood Network in Europe, International Step-by-Step Association. The Executive Director, Liana Gent, is here. The regional, the Asia-Pacific Regional Network, and the board member, Cliff Mayers, is here. And then the Arab Resource Network, the board member, the Executive Director, Dr. Ghassan, is here. The way that across the region we are seeing people coming together is very special. He's saying that we recognize there's a need, we need to hold hands, we need to do things together and to make a big impact. This is also a special time because, as was mentioned, the Nurturing Care framework has been launched. And this is an opportunity that will allow us to launch it in the region so that the conversation takes off on a high note and that we begin to engage with this larger framework. This is also a special time because regionally the African Union has made that commitment to launch an early childhood cluster. It's taken us a long time to get to this point as a continent and globally. The stage is set, the world is watching, let us seize the moment. Let's make the difference. We were born to make a difference. Our children cannot keep on waiting. They can't wait one more day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lynette. And thank you for everyone on this panel. You are actually the face of the global agencies that make things happen because you're constantly working with our governments around the world to ensure that the ideas, initiatives, and programs you develop get to the ground level. And I know that among the many who appreciate your work is Her Excellency Dr. Mohammed, whom I've referred to as somebody who really champions the cause of children and did it before we even engaged her in this journey together. Every once in a while, I tell my colleagues that I used to be a magician. They will never believe me. I tell them I'm a magician, they never believe me. But for the magician part, you've been told to shake hands with Dr. Joan Lombardi when you run into her. Well, I'm going to make sure that you don't have to run into her. So I have the pleasure of introducing the next session, which is moderated by Dr. Joan Lombardi, Director of Early Opportunities. And with that, we will take our leave and welcome the panel that Dr. Lombardi will be chairing.
Good morning. I would hug all of you if I could. Let's give a big hand as they're leaving. And let me please invite Dr. Linda Richter and Dr. Bernadette Dahlman to join me.
Before I did that, I should have listed. It looks like the secretary's team. So we have 10 minutes before we go, so
okay,
we're going to take a break.
We're going to take a break. Yeah. Okay.
Joe, do you know where he's talking about for the presentation?
No.
So I have consulted with esteemed officials, and we need to take a little bit of a break, but we're going to begin this session, maybe do 10 minutes, and then we'll take 10 minutes of a break, and then we'll come back. Does that work? Okay.
You want to wait?
Do we wait?
Yeah.
Take the break now? Yeah. Okay. What? Okay. No,
First of all, welcome everyone, especially the distinguished and honorable members.
We're going to do about 10 minutes and then we'll take a break. And
okay. We're going to take a break after my introductions and then before the speakers. I remember the moment in Puerto Rico where that group of leaders was sitting on the floor, and I just want to congratulate all of them And Juliana Saletti said to me this morning that Lynette Okengo birthed this baby, and she had a lot of midwives and mid-husbands with her along the way. And I want you to join me in thanking her for her persistence. It is really an honor for me to moderate this session on nurturing care. Nurturing care, nurturing care. What better word that to use? Someone mentioned affection this morning, and that's really what supports young children. We're so fortunate this morning to have two outstanding leaders in the field of child development, two champions for children and families who have been on a journey. They've really been on a quest, I would say. A quest to make sure the world pays attention to the needs of our youngest children and their families. 2016, after years of research, work, and dedication, they helped launch the Lancet on Early Childhood Development, which coined the term nurturing care, setting forth an ambitious agenda to move early childhood from small and scattered programs to scale. Based on this seminal work, they led the way in the development of the Nurturing Care Framework, which was launched, as you heard this morning, at the World Health Assembly just last May. And the world of early childhood development has never been the same. What was so exciting about nurturing care, from my perspective, were three things. First, it provided a vision for what we want for children, and it reinforced the integrated nature of child development, once again saying that the domains of development are indivisible. You can't learn if you're not safe. You can't feel safe if the adults in your life are not safe and secure themselves. Secondly, it put forth in the one area of child development which is too often forgotten, children from the prenatal period to age 3, the period that preceded the development of the AfECN network over the last 1,000+ days. And it doesn't happen just when you're born, right? We know that. So putting a spotlight on the first 3 years of life was monumental in the world of early childhood. Because before that, people were thinking pre-kindergarten. We finally got people to think pre-kindergarten. Movement is all about. So we're going to hear from these two wonderful presenters. Together, they're going to provide the vision around nurturing care and the data to help you put the advocacy that I know you have in your hearts to work. But before we do that, and to give them their full right to present, I think we're going to take a 10-minute break, and please join me and come back. So thank you very much.
I'm going to call on the Honorable PS to make a few remarks, and he will be talking to us actually about the need for the break. Right? Okay.
Thank you very much for the session that we have just concluded. Thank you for the panelists. Thank you, Prof. And I would want to catch on what you say, that we continue the conversation. And for sure, we shall continue the conversation. What the executive director has told us about the 230 million children who are out of school, I was trying to check statistics. That's more than the population of the East Africa community. That is 19% of the population of the African continent. So you can see the quantum and the impact that that can have on humanity. So once again, thank you very much for yourself for listening. Before we can break for 10 minutes, I would want to welcome the Cabinet Secretary to say one or two words and acknowledge all of us, our delegates who are here today. But once again, karibuni to Nairobi. So welcome, Waziri.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Belio Kipsang, who is the Principal Secretary for basic education in the Ministry of Education. Professor Kofi, I just want to say thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, when the wonderful professor, the executive director, the board members came to see me to prepare for this historic conference, they were very, very convincing. And after they had spoken for a few minutes, I actually told them that I had been converted a long time ago. And that they did not need to do any more convincing, that I knew the critical importance of having this historic meeting, and that I would be very happy to share our own experiences, which have been both good and bad, with the delegations that will be coming to this meeting. But let me, before I continue, just recognize the 31 first ladies from our county government that are here with us today. Thank them very much for being here. They are the true champions of this cause that we are all pursuing. And so thank you very, very much. I recognize many of them that are seated, and I think we'll get an opportunity to introduce them at a later stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to thank the African Early Childhood Network for the honor that they have bestowed on me by naming me the regional champion for early learning. I think it's a great privilege to me, and also for the ministry that I represent, as well as the government of the Republic. Now, having said that, I'd like to welcome all of you to Nairobi, to Kenya, and tell you that this is a cause that we are all very, very passionate about in this country. And obviously that's why the 31 First Ladies are here with us this morning. And I'll tell you that we've had some real serious challenges in just registering our early learners, and we've done that for a long period of time. And so in order to address that, we came up with an information management system, a national information management system for the education sector. And I can tell you this, that today the most successful part of that whole system is the early childhood registration system, which has allowed us to actually see how much progress we've been able to make. From enrolling about 60% 10 years ago to 77.1% today. And so, as we speak, 77.1% of our early learners are enrolled in early learning centers, and we are hoping that by 2020, as promised, we will have universal access for all our children. Because like you, and like the panelists who have spoken here today, we truly believe that the strongest foundation that you can give to the future of our countries, all our countries, is basically ensuring that they actually are prepared for school. And what better way to prepare them than to enroll them in early learning centers. And so we've done that. As you know, it's a devolved function. It's a function that actually lies with the counties, and that's why the true champions are those that are in our counties. We got a lot of support from our county governments in this registration exercise, and we'd like to thank them for that support, for the encouragement, and for ensuring that we actually were able to make this big leap from 60 to 77.1%. And I was actually reminded about how tough this journey was by the board members when they came for a second visit to my office, those that had actually participated in this process for a long period of time. So what have we done that has ensured that we actually play our role as a central government whose only business in early childhood learning is basically setting the standards, putting in place policies and guidelines. We have developed and launched a policy on early learning. I was actually very, very proud to be the one to launch that policy. As I've told you, I'm very, very passionate about early learning because I've actually seen what it can do for our children. After that, what we did was develop guidelines for the implementation of this policy. That is already done. It was launched yesterday, as you heard, and we have managed to distribute it to the counties, and we'll be following up to just support them in implementing that. We're also developing an assessment tool for our early learning centers. And hopefully when that is fully developed, we'll also launch it, and we'll be happy to share it with other countries, across the continent. We're actually happy to share all our experiences with those that are starting the journey or at a less advanced stage of this journey. I would be happy to share everything that we have been able to do so far. We've also been able to register, as I've said, we have registered 3.2 million learners who are participating in early learning and are enrolled in our early learning centers. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to give you that information, to welcome you here, to tell you that you're actually engaged in a very noble task, and I'm wishing you all the best. We will be together on this. And again, I think there's nothing better that we can do than exchange experiences, support each other, and ensure that the future of our continent and beyond is left in good hands, hands of those that have been prepared, both for learning and for leadership. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to take it, but let's give her another round of applause. I mean, and to all the people here and the officials from the government of Kenya, the First Ladies, this is an amazing accomplishment, and people's hearts should be swelling with pride. Kofi, do you want to say anything before you send people off for coffee?
No, really.
Okay. 10 minutes, and please come back to hear the Nurturing Care framework presentation.
Okay. And as we do that, the room is going to be prepared, so please give us some time, for the room to be prepared for the next big event. Okay? P.S. Okay. You want to add? So please come back in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Lynette.